Hello guys, you're welcome to another one of my videos. In the last video we talked about arrays in Rust. I was going to talk about slices but I forgot. So in this video I'm going to quickly cover slices before we go over proper variable declaration in Rust. So what are slices? Well, first of all, I'm going to create an array in order to be able to explain what slices are. So I'm going to create an array of 5 random integers, just like that. Now what slices are they allow you to reference some parts of an array. Okay, so say you have an array of 5 elements and you wanted to reference like these 3 elements inside of the array. So in order to get a slice, you're just gonna have to do array. So let's say we wanted to get from these 2 to 7. So what I'm gonna have to do is say 1, 2. This is let me count. 1, 2, 3. So this is gonna have to be 4 because by default slices are exclusive. So you're gonna say that you want from the index 1, which is this, straight to the 4th index. So what does this mean? This simply means that I'm referencing a part of this array. So let me just print out if I can type array is the debug. So you have to pass the debug thing and then slice. So we have array and the slice. So let's just print this out to make sure that this is actually working, and we have to do cargo run, and here you should see the array here and the slice here. So essentially this is exactly what you do with slices. You can reference parts of an array with a slice. And another cool thing about slices is that, for example, let's say I wanted to reference only these 3 values and I have a really long a really huge array. So let's say I have an array of let's just do I32 about maybe 50, I guess, and I'm gonna set everything to just 0, I guess. Let me see, 50, that should work. What is this? I don't know. Oh, sorry. This should be an array of I32, just like that. Okay, so this is gonna initialize everything to zeros, and now what I want to do is to just this should be mutable, by the way, because I wanted to set the values of this array. So immutable reference for array. So I'm gonna set each element to I equals to, let's just say 25, I guess. So everything's gonna be 25. Actually no, I'm gonna set something here so that we can have different values for each of the elements here. Okay, this should work now. Right, so let's first of all just print out the array and the slice so that I can show you what I wanted to show you. So you can see they have different values now. So what I want to do is to reference from the 15th element to the end. So the way I could do this is to just say like 15, I think that's 14, then to the end. So to the end would be like the 49th, I believe, 49. So if I were to run this is actually gonna work. It's gonna work just fine, as you can see. But what I want to do is to show you another syntax. So if you omit the last element or the last value here, what you can do is get this same effect. So you see we have from 500. This is the array. I'm not gonna print the array anymore, so I'm just gonna leave that, and damn it. So So run again, and this is what you're gonna get. So you're gonna see the slice starts from 850 to 1725, and if you put 49, you should get basically the same thing, or not. I guess 50. But this isn't. It's not a 50. I'm just gonna 1725. Okay, yeah. So 50 is exclusive. All right. So you see, you got that from. So if you want to reference some values from some starting index to the end of the array, so you can use slices, and this also works with strings, by the way. So if we have a string, let's say hello equals to hello world. So let's say I wanted to reference the word part of the string. So the way you do that is pretty simple. All you have to do is to just so let's say we wanted to print out a slice hello at so let's say I wanted to print out the word. So this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So I guess this should be the sixth index, and then I just put the dots, and this should actually work. And you can see we have word slice right here. So it actually works similarly if you want to reference some so let's try to see if we could print from just the hello. Let's see if we can reference only the hello slice right here. And to do that, we're gonna of course start from 0 and to the end. I think that should be 6 or 5 hello. So I think that should be 5. Well, 0 1 2 3 4, yeah, 5, because 5 is exclusive. So you're gonna see hello being printed right there. And yeah, let's see if we can omit the beginning here, and this is still gonna work. So this is gonna start from the beginning to this last index here. So this is exactly what string slices are for, and they're pretty useful when you're accessing some kind of data structure that has contiguous data, and you can reference some parts of that particular data without having to copy that data to another variable, things like that. So that's all about string slices. Now let's talk about variables in general. So the way you declare variables in Rust is you use the let keyword. So whatever variable you want to declare, you use let. All right. And so when you say let, you give the name of the variable. So value equals to maybe something. So we could give it a string, we could give it an integer, we could give it a float. It doesn't matter. So but this is generally how you would declare a variable in Rust. But by default, this variable is actually immutable. So if I try to print this value, if I try to print this value and then I try to set the value again, this is not gonna work. All right, and this is gonna throw an error saying that that it's gonna say, what exactly is this? It cannot assign twice to immutable variables. So variables in Rust by default are immutable, and if you want them to be mutable, then what you have to do is have mute appended after the let keyword to say that you want this variable to be mutable. Now we can print out the new value. I'm just gonna copy this because I don't think I have the strength to type. So value is now, and then we could print value again, and this should actually work. Now a couple of things you need to understand about working with variables in Rust is you can also have references. So references are basically referring to some variable. So for example, I could say let reference equal to a reference to value. Now what I'm doing here is I'm simply saying that I want to point I want a variable that points to this value here. Now the interesting thing about this reference is that I can actually use it in place of the variable, and it's gonna work. But a couple of things you also have to understand is that you cannot assign values to this reference because the reference is actually immutable. All right, First of all, this is a reference to this value, but it's also immutable, so you cannot assign a value to the reference. You're gonna get an error. Let's see what Rust has to say here. It says expected reference to float, and you found a floating point number. Even if you do this, it's still not gonna work. Okay, so if you try to pass a reference here, it says cannot assign twice to immutable variable reference. All right, so that's exactly what that is. And you can also try to have mutable here, but this is still not gonna work. And the reason this is not gonna work, let me see, what is this? Right, so what is happening here is this reference is going to point to a new variable, a new location right here. So essentially what you're doing here is you're creating a new variable. Now if you work with references in C++ or C, you know that when you manipulate a reference in C++, then it will basically affect the original value. But in this case, this is not gonna affect it. Let me just show you what I'm trying to say here. So value is this, reference then should be this. So this is gonna be value, and then we're gonna have reference point to that. And now if I run this, okay, so we have a bunch of warnings right here, but this actually worked. So you see value is now 2.1, reference is 20.1. So value is still the 2.1 we assigned, but reference is now 20. Reference just points to a new variable location instead of pointing to whatever. So basically the mutable reference we have here is simply saying that we can assign this reference, we can make this reference point to another location. So if you want this reference to actually be able to manipulate this value variable, what we have to do is to remove the mutable here, because we don't want our reference to be able to point to something else, and we have mute right here. So what we're saying here is that we want to have a mutable reference to this value. So now what's going to happen is if I save this, this is not going to work. If I try to run this, you're going to get an error, because it's going to tell you that expect mutable reference found this. So the way to work with this is you're just going to have to remove this and then use what is called the dereference operator. Now what the dereference operator lets you do is to say, okay, this is a reference to this, so I want to assign to the location of this value 20.1. I don't know if you get that, but that's exactly what a reference is, and that's how you use a reference. So you have to do what is called a dereference. So what is this? So yeah, it says cannot borrow value as immutable because it is also borrow as mutable. So this is another issue with Rust, where when you have a mutable reference to a variable, a mutable variable, then it's not gonna let you borrow that variable somewhere else. So this print line actually has a takes a reference to all of these parameters here, and so the problem here is we already have a mutable reference. So what this means is that you cannot have more. For example, I cannot have like let reference 2 equals to, this is not gonna work. All right, and the reason this is not gonna work is because you already have one mutable reference. They call it borrow. So when you have a reference like this, you're borrowing this value from here. You're telling value that you're gonna be able to manipulate or change the value stored inside of there, and so it's not gonna let you assign another mutable reference to that same memory location. You can have one mutable reference to a memory location at one particular time. Now the problem also is that when you have a mutable reference to a location, you cannot have any immutable reference to that same location. So for example, this is not gonna work. All right, this is not gonna work because it's gonna tell you that this has already been borrowed, so you cannot borrow anymore. So basically you have to be careful when you're borrowing things in Rust. I mean, Rust really has an issue with borrowing and such. So when you've borrowed a value as mutable, you cannot borrow it as anything else. That's just one thing you have to remember when you're working with Rust. So that's pretty much it. So how do we fix this? Well, the first thing we should do is to just remove the mutable reference and forget about trying to pass this, how do I put it, forget about trying to set the value here to this basically. Now to solve this, of course, you could just do value equals 20.1 and all the error goes away. I mean this actually. Right, what is this? Okay, cannot assign to value because, oh yeah, something else I forgot. Rust is really crazy. All right, so here it's saying that if you borrow a value and the reference is still alive, then you cannot mutate that value because it is borrowed. So another thing you have to be careful with when you're working with Rust, something like this is actually going to work. And now, so basically when you're working with Rust, the biggest problems you're gonna have is going to be with borrowing things around, and it's really crazy, trust me. There's not a lot I remember that I can actually explain to you when it comes to borrowing and things with Rust, but it really, when you get used to it, it really saves you from a lot of memory corruption issues and stuff like that. But to be sincere, it's really crazy and extreme from the compiler. You don't worry, we're gonna explore more about this in subsequent videos, but I just wanted you to understand the craziness of variables, the borrow checker references, and stuff like that with Rust, mutable and immutable and things like that. So right, I don't really have a lot to share with you in this video, so in the next video we're going to talk about structs and enums, and we're gonna start getting into some pretty interesting stuff. So thanks for watching, hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.